Greetings, YouTube and Temple of the Adversarial Forge. I just did a video in regard to what I call the Holy Trinity, um, invocation, evocation, and transmutation. Now, at the end, I gave a little side note saying that if you don't achieve physical manifestation, to not get stressed out and to pay attention to dreams, people in your life, external circumstances, and learn to open yourself up to the Spirit's influences in this way. Because what you're doing is you are creating the pathway for a more deep and direct perception as a receiver or conduit of spiritual information, whether that be telepathic thoughts, basic contact, or physical manifestation. Now, I'm actually going to be reading from my own magical diary. I was working under a particular lodge at this time, and I'm not going to reveal which one. I'm not going to reveal any of the workings because I said I wouldn't. And I'm going to try and take out clues which will imply who I was working under. This is not entirely possible because if I do this entirely, then it just won't make any sense. But I'm going to do my best. I will say that the point and purpose of this part of the project was to gain Gnosis in regard to the first race of man. And I was working with Lucifer under the mask of the Lord of Atlantean Magick. Now, my results with this current got really intense, guys. The visions and the Gnosis I received in the excerpt of my diary that I'm going to read to you were very intense. So intense that I sought immediate, direct contact with the Lord of Atlantean Magick through evocation. Physical manifestation failed entirely. However, contact was made, and I will let you know how that happened through this reading. Now, you're going to have to bear with me. If you talk to any of my mentors, my records in and of themselves are grimoires. I write grimoires. I have written many grimoires. They're just not published. And I won't publish them. They're sacred to me. They'll probably get passed on to my kids. It's that important. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start this. This was the 5th day of this particular project. Okay. As I blooded the sigil, I began to rock astrally and sway back and forth. I recited this draconian mantra, and the sigil began to flash, and purple light began to pour out of it like an etheric mist which filled the room. I pushed my intent through the sigil, which was to see visions of the first race of man. And for some reason, at this point in time, it felt as if my third eye had become a yoni, which was being penetrated with infernal wisdom. During the actual invocation of Lucifer, power began to swirl about me, especially around my projecting arm, which was holding my magical sword. And I sensed eyes in the room, piercing deep within. I spilled blood within the fluid of the chalice, and I sat within the circle. I closed my physical eyes, and as I closed them, it felt as if worms were crawling within them, and my spiritual eyes opened, and before me was another time, another place. It seemed like a political conspiracy was being planned against the gods. And as I understood it, these ancient gods were teachers to the first race of men. They taught and tested mankind that they could reign in utopia. However, the first race of man was arrogant because of their unlimited power, and they felt like they were settling for mediocrity. Their power made them stagnant and even rebellious. I saw a vision of the sky opening up and Lucifer's face appearing. I saw him descend unto the desert sands and spill his blood to create the first race of man. I've watched the evolution of this race in what seemed like an instant, and then I witnessed his fury. These were his words. Do you think that the wisdom and power given cannot be taken back? Blood for blood. I knew he was referring to the blood he spilled, and that he was going to take it back. He made a sound. He pronounced words, and I don't even know if it was a language. Masin no hin no mai. And as these words were recited with rage, the bass of his voice made the very grounds and sands tremble. And it was as if the connection to the gods, and therefore their power, was taken. It was as if the waters that began to rise and swallow this island were draconian tears being spilled due to betrayal. Lucifer's words of power were ferocious, and I watched as he tore faces from the skulls of man and ripped them to pieces through will alone, not even touching them. His wrath was only the beginning, though, for some actually tried to resist, and as they did, other darker and more indescribable forces joined the battle. It was as if the gods of old were conduits of teaching and power, but there were darker forces behind the veil, waiting to be known. Lucifer's wrath had purpose. It was not just about vengeance, this much I knew. The attack in and of itself was a test of the souls of this first race of man, and some survived. However, the secrets of power were hidden, and the abyss was opened as the minds of man was closed. I understood that some of us are descendants of those survivors on a soul level, and we have learned bit by bit over aeons. And the power of these gods will be brought forth again by an unnamed goddess's chosen ones. Then there was dream work, blah blah blah, evocation. Okay, now at this point in time, I was really curious. I wanted more answers. I had questions that I wanted to ask Lucifer. So I figured it would be good to take the initiative to use this sigil and attempt an evocation. The evocation failed miserably. I had built this temple on my cold basement floor, and I literally said, you know what, fuck this. I laid down on the cold basement floor with my dream journal, and I was bound and determined to get information. And here's what I got. Lucifer came to me in a dream, and it was just as real as any evocation could possibly be. There was no sign the manifestation in the temple during the rite itself. However, I wanted information. I sought it, and I took the initiative to seek the face of the gods. This was the result. These are Lucifer's words. It is true that mankind is in a state of apostasy, as this current disease called religion states, and it has gotten worse since the destruction of the first race of man. A veil was placed between man and the gods. This veil is the very first test. It is not a test of soul. You'll have plenty of time to prepare for those, but this is a test of will. You see, all should reign as gods in this ever-expanding universe. However, most will not, for one must put forth great effort in seeking us. That's exactly what I did. There are bits of Atlantean and Draconian lore in most spiritual cages of this era, though not in the same abundance as those who are closest to the first fall of man, as perceived through linear time. However, Pama Hazael, you must understand that time does not exist as most perceive it. It is not linear, and it is linked to the matter of the world and the universe. Now, I did a video in regard to Let's Make Our Magic Work. This Gnosis was applied in that video. And what he's saying is that time itself and matter are woven together. Just like mankind has souls, time is basically the spirit of the universe, which is always expanding, like the spiritual adept's consciousness. He said, see it as an ever-expanding now, the beginning being like the nucleus of a cell. That which is closest to the nucleus of the Atlantean gods were more easily able to see through that nucleus and determine how it operates through symbols or keys, similar to how DNA strands contain information about your genetics. Now, as the universe, along with the eternal moment or now, expands, it gets harder for mankind to see the truth in the center of time. This, however, is the source of all power and creation. Now, people will rarely have the will to earn back this ancient divine power that was once given, and they fail because of their separation from us. Their strife and disarray should be the impetus to seek that power and create change. Instead, they fall to their knees in prayers, losing life force and the desire for life altogether through their false religions. And they show us that they do not want life at all. They do not want power at all. Therefore, it is never given, and they remain powerless. However, others are expanding with the universe and the nucleus, and the link between the two is growing stronger. You are going through transitions. You are going through changes. That's all I'm going to share in regard to that. But that was a powerful connection, guys. I mean, I'm not going to fucking make that up. I was panicking to write all of this shit as I was putting these dream symbols together and writing keywords, you know. I was panicking to flesh this out as quickly as possible because it was powerful as fuck. Just as powerful as bringing the Demon King himself to physical manifestation, because he came to me and directly told me exactly what I wanted to know. In nomine Draconis.